All right, Nitro number 104, also September 8th, 1997. Announcers are running down the show. When Eric Bischoff comes out, he orders the truck to run the tape.
Well, the key here is Tony says, we will never air this tape again.
I see.
And Bischoff says, no, I have more power than you know. And I thought, this show sucks. It's already falling off the rails.
Wow.
Like, does Bischoff have power or not? How come J.J. Dillon is gone because Hulk Hogan beat him up? Shouldn't Hulk Hogan be suspended or stripped of the title or something? Instead, it's like, well, you killed J.J. Now we'll get someone else.
We'll go find somebody else.
Harder to kill. This fucking show is so stupid.
You guys are literally bulletproof.
So Bischoff begins playing the Four Horsemen parody skit from last week, but before too long, the actual Four Horsemen come out to the desk. They put a stop to this, and they order, they challenge the NWO and headed down to the ring. So Gene Okerlund comes out to interview them. And I gotta say, I have seen a lot of Ric Flair in my life. I don't think I've ever seen Ric Flair in the state he was in this segment.
Right. He was very angry.
I have seen him crazy happy. I have seen him crazy pissed. I have seen him crazy sad. I have never seen Ric Flair in subdued disgust. So Hennig makes a point here. He goes first. And he explains he has spent his whole career stepping in dog do, as he put it, and not getting any on him. But now he's the man hired as the enforcer of the Horsemen, and he's not going to stand for this. Some very subtle clues going on in this whole Hennig thing. So Mongo starts to talk. They're in Green Bay, so he gets booed, and he at least addresses the Green Bay fans so the national audience has a clue what's going on. He didn't have much to say. Benoit didn't have much to say, and then it was Ric Flair's turn. And this was, for the start of this was not the Nature Boy Ric Flair. It was Richard Fleer. He says, I have been doing this 25 years all around the world. All the car rides, all the jets, all the sold-out buildings, all the big stars I've wrestled. Last week was the first time I was ever embarrassed to be a pro wrestler. He says Arn was a legitimate legend, a legitimate human being, a legitimate man, and everyone in the sports world should have recognized him as a great performer every day of his career. None of you guys will ever have friends in this business like I have a friend in Arn. And finally, he snapped and went into Ric Flair mode. He calls out Nash and Conan and Bagwell and Six. He vows they will not leave until they come out, and the show goes to commercial.
It was awesome. You could see him physically get redder and redder and redder as he was yelling. And I just thought somebody needs to put a blood pressure cuff on this guy and see exactly how far it goes before it spikes.
You know, all of these shows, Vinny's favorite segments with the Horsemen and Jarrett, and Flair's just out there talking about women and drinking. It's been a while. I can think of one in the last 2 years. One great Ric Flair promo. This man went back to the 80s here.
Oh, yeah?
He had something to sink his teeth into.
Oh, that's true.
And he cut a great fucking promo here.
So they go to break. They come out. They come back. The Horsemen are still out there. And here comes WCW security to clear the ring. And by that I mean Doug Dillinger and two other guys to enter the ring and say, come on, guys, let's go. And it worked.
I was going to say, they did.
They went from saying,
said,
we're not leaving,
we will not leave,
to them just leaving.
And Doug was like, dude, you guys got to leave. We got a show.
You couldn't even have, high voltage go out there and get their asses kicked, or at least the Horsemen could blow off some steam.
Or I have an idea. How about Doug Dillinger comes out with a note, and they read it, and then they leave? Because a note saying, you're going to get the guys tonight.
I guess.
Or have Gene tell them that.
Actually, they're getting them at the pay-per-view.
Well, that's
they had a match tonight.
True.
So, as security is nicely asking the Horsemen to leave, and the Horsemen are nicely leaving, Tony Schiavone says, hey, where was security last week? That is a fine question. Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio Jr.
You know, some people are going to get very mad at this. Maybe I'll change my mind within the next week or two, but these would be the two best guys in the Cruiserweight class.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Duh.
Unbelievable.
And it wasn't even their best stuff.
No.
These were the two best luchadors on this show.
Mike Tenay very casually notes they had many six-man tags together, but this is their first singles match ever.
Was it really?
That's what Tenay said, and there's few announcers I would trust on that.
No,
like
he must be right. But that's amazing.
Well, he did note they've had many six-man tags.
I do remember, this is jumping ahead, but the Halloween Havoc mask versus hair match. Was it mask versus hair? Whatever it was.
I think so.
Ray's mask was on the line, is all that matters.
Yeah.
What a match. Oh, it's mask versus title.
Is that this year?
It was mask versus title. I'm not sure if it was this year. It must have been this year.
Had to have been this year.
Yeah. The match was like 12 minutes.
We may have to watch it.
It may have been 11. I gave it 5 stars.
Oh, yeah.
11-minute 5-star match.
I'm pretty sure everyone did.
God, they were great.
So, the crowd was not into this all the way through. They loved to boo Eddie, but they were not totally into the match. And the story was this crowd was actually here, like I say, they were here to see the stars and cheer for them. They didn't really care much about wrestling matches. Until Ray gets thrown outside, he jumps up the apron, and he hits this awesome springboard Rana. It looks so great. And first of all, the move looks good, and so the crowd pops. And the ref drops the count, and then the crowd, you can almost feel it. I know it's a very short time, but you can actually feel this build. They go from, oh my God, that was a cool move. Oh my God, Ray might actually win. Oh my God, Ray won. They were all very, very happy at that.
Now that I think about it, and maybe somebody could find one. I think that Halloween Havoc match, if everyone would agree that it's 5 stars, which I don't think everybody will because it's 11 minutes, but that would make it probably the greatest 11-minute 5. That'd be the shortest 5-star match of all time. That's the best 11-minute match ever.
Yeah, probably.
Because I can't think of any other 5-star match that's less than 14, 15, 20 minutes. 11 minutes.
It is certainly a great match, and you should all go watch it if you've never seen it, or if you have seen it, actually.
We'll have to watch it again.
The Nitro girls danced, but before we saw them dancing, we heard their music and got an extended shot of the whitest fans of all time doing the whitest possible clapping along to the dance music.
And they announced the Nitro girls will be going to your house if you win this Nitro Party contest.
They're bringing the Nitro balloons.
And the way Tony said it was so creepy. God bless the guy. He goes, we're going to be sending the girls to your living room.
I would enter this contest.
Really? Wow.
Oakland interviewed DDP, who admitted that he and Lex Luger were butting heads and couldn't see eye to eye. But they were booked on Team WCW at War Games. They had to work together on that day, so they had to get their differences ironed out. And if they couldn't do it verbally, maybe they should settle things in the ring. Lex comes out. He accepts the challenge, but he wants Paige to know, if we do this, I'm not going to hold anything back. Are you cool with that? And Paige was cool with that. So that was it.
I liked that segment.
It was great.
That was a very good segment.
Fine. Disco Inferno versus Hugh Morris. He's doing this match, and Hugh's making his comeback, and Alex Wright comes out and dances at ringside.
We should add that right before Alex came out, the match fell apart.
Yeah.
And Alex came out at the exact perfect time to distract the crowd from this match completely falling off a cliff.
So Alex comes out. He jumps in the apron. Hugh punches him. That's right. I remember this finish now. Alex jumps in the apron, but he gets punched. And Morris goes up top, and the ref goes with Morris. So Alex slides, I believe it's the cruiserweight belt he has. He slides the belt into Disco, thinking Disco will use this as a weapon. But Disco is dumb. So Disco's lying on his back, and he grabs the belt, and he holds it above him, looking at it like, where did this come from? Who left this belt here? And he's holding it up there, and Hugh Morris hits a moonsault on top of the belt, on top of Disco, and pins him and gets the win. That finish was great.
It was great, and I interpreted it a little differently than you. I thought that Alex threw the belt in for him to use, but it was not that Disco was confused. It was that he grabbed it, and he was suddenly smitten by the gold and the jewels and the bling. And he was like, oh my God, look at this fucking thing. And then a 320-pound man smashed him to death.
Yes.
Like Gollum.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I was surprised Hugh Morris in this match, he did a spin wheel kick and at one point ran up the ropes.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if I thought this at the time, and going back and watching these Nitros, Hugh is, the best I can put it is, you watch his matches and think, why are you not better?
That's exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a very agile, average to below average worker.
But why? Why is he average? Because he looks great. He's got charisma. He's huge. He can move.
Because he didn't get it.
He clearly,
which is a great irony.
He did not get it. He just never did. Anyway, so Alex tried to revive Disco, but Disco was pissed, and he shoved him, and they argued. Nash, Six, Bagwell, and Conan came out for a promo.
Fucking Nash.
NWO is all over this show.
Nash is wearing a flannel, a fanny pack, and sweatpants.
Not noticed that.
And the blue bandana around the head to match the flannel.
I took it as he was trying to dress like Conan.
Right.
But I did not notice the fanny pack and sweatpants, to be fair.
I was trying to figure out, so Conan was definitely dressed as Mongo.
Yes.
I'm not sure what X-Pac was wearing, what Six was wearing. Was he supposed to be ripping off Flair?
Not here.
And then Nash
Nash was just being Nash.
Nash was just being a clown because he didn't give a shit, and he was making $500,000 or $750,000.
Yeah.
And no one did anything to him.
No.
He did whatever the hell he wanted.
Yeah.
I can't even tell if I'm really mad at the guy or not. I mean, I was really mad last week, but I guess here's what I'm going to say. Because Scott Hall was not involved in this, and Scott Hall later came out and wrestled Super Kalo.
By himself.
Now listen, Scott Hall had a lot of problems in his personal life. He crashed a lot of cars. He attended a lot of rehab. But he always seemed like a decent guy. He would go in there with these numbskulls and he would sell for them. Like, he sold for Super Kalo for no good reason before he beat the guy. Right?
Yeah.
He was always, whenever there was a match, it was Nash that wouldn't do a goddamn thing, and Hall would be in there trying to have a match and trying to do stuff.
Yes.
It's kind of like, do I really blame Nash? I guess I kind of do, because your buddy sure went out there and tried. Why the fuck didn't you try?
But at the same time, if you are employed and you are a colossal screw-up and nobody's calling you on it, nobody's sending you home early.
It's called pride.
I understand that. But if you can get away with it and nobody's telling you no, why wouldn't you try to get away with it?
Because it's called pride.
I understand that, Brian.
Well, I'm answering your question. That's why. Because the man should have some pride.
Nash was proud of what he could get away with. I just want to know why the Outsiders were still the reigning tag team champions. Why did they never do anything together? They stayed way far apart and would defend the titles like once every 8 weeks. Anyway, they ran down the Horsemen. Let's see. Nash says, we're all big stars. We're too busy for the Horsemen. Bagwell says, I'm not doing anything. Conan spits some catchphrases, and eventually it is announced that Bagwell and Conan will face the Horsemen later. Brad Armstrong versus Chris Jericho.
Brad Armstrong cut off his mullet and apparently sprouted body hair because of it.
All right.
Am I wrong?
I don't know.
He was a very hairy man here.
They are once again editing in Jericho's WWF music, so I guess that's just going to be a theme for the rest of these Nitros. Eddie Guerrero runs out. Okay, pay attention to this. Eddie runs out and says, Brad, I need you to do me a favor. Last week, Jericho got lucky and beat me. I need to beat him to prove I deserve a title match, so I need you to step aside tonight so I can avenge my loss. And Armstrong replied, leave or, quote, I'll whoop you. So Eddie left. They had a match. Fans didn't care. Eddie returned. He attacked Jericho from behind for the DQ. Eddie Guerrero attacked Chris Jericho, leading to Brad Armstrong losing the match. By the way, this is also where it occurred to me that on both these shows, you can see the fans just absolutely stopped caring about wrestling entirely and just wanted to cheer for the big moments. So Armstrong, having had this match lost now due to the interference of the man who he had threatened to whoop earlier, put it all behind him. And Armstrong and Eddie double-teamed Jericho until it went to break.
Well, maybe they were in cahoots. I don't know.
The Nitro Girls Nitro Girls danced, and they showed the exact same group of white fans they had showed before. This cannot have been an accident. Bobby Heenan joins the announce desk. Hogan and Bischoff come out.
Yeah.
Why, when Eric Bischoff came out for promos with Hulk Hogan, did he hold his arms out to his side and run around like he was an airplane?
I don't know.
Was this ever explained?
Maybe he was high.
Ask us the question. So Hogan runs down Ric Flair for being a crybaby.
Hogan says he's too big, too rich, and too tan.
Too tan.
For anyone in this company.
We do need someone to come in whose gimmick is that they're over-tanned and totally obsessed about it. So
we got one.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan.
Well, I mean, in 2016. Yeah. So he runs down Sting. Bischoff calls Sting a coward. And everyone points up to the rafters, and Hogan's warming up doing the Brock Lesnar dance, and then a dummy that looks like Sting starts to descend.
Now, before we get to the dummy, I just want to mention one thing the only thing I liked about this. Hogan and Bischoff come out and they challenge Sting. And there's no Sting to be found. However, there was a moment where all the fans started looking up at the rafters, and Hogan was initially scared.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole idea is they're presuming Sting is not there, so they're all cocky. But when the moments come where they think, oh shit, he may actually be here, they get scared. But then when they find out he's not here, they get cocky again. I do like that. And then they drop the fucking dummy.
So the dummy descends, and it's not so much... My memory was that they cut the cord, and they did not do that. They just lowered the dummy way too fast, and then cut away right before the dummy hit the ground. And they go back, and the dummy is laying there in an unnatural angle, and the fans in the immediate area are all laughing. They can clearly tell that this is not a human being.
But the others...
The other fans in the building
are horrified.
Yeah. That's the key here. So,
yep.
Obviously, Owen had not fallen yet.
It was 18 months or so.
And so you can't say, in hindsight, this was so horrible.
Well, you can.
Well, that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
You can't say it because of what happened with Owen. Because this happened before that happened.
Yeah.
So we're looking back at a show 19 years later. However, they had shots of fans who were fucking horrified.
Yeah.
They thought that Sting fell from the rafters and was dead.
Yes.
Now, when this ends, I mean, basically what happened was they throw the dummy in the ring, and Eric has a ref shirt on, and Hogan drops the leg on the dummy and then pins it, and Eric counts to pin. This was actually like a totally fine professional wrestling angle. Why did they have to drop the dummy and kill it?
I have no idea.
Like, if you would have taken that out, this would have been really good. But instead, they scared the shit out of the fans who paid their tickets and thought Sting died.
And the people on TV, I'm sure, at first.
Well,
yeah.
Utter bullshit.
How, putting Owen Hart aside for a moment, how anyone could think at any point this was a good idea to do, I don't know. Lee Marshall did the Road Report made a weasel joke.
You know, I don't want to talk too much about the Owen thing, but I will say, if you read the lawsuit regarding Owen falling from the ceiling, and you read how WWE strapped this guy in, to WCW's credit, they dropped Sting from the ceiling like 100 times, and he had like big time, massive 2 double gimmicks that he had to get out of every time he came down from the ceiling. That's why when he came down, it took forever for him to get out of the whole deal and then get his ass in the ring and do the angle. So you got to give those guys credit. They were not messing around with dropping Sting from the ceiling.
There was the one time when he had to drop down, unhook himself, fight the NWO, hook himself back up, fight off the NWO with a cord wrapped around his neck, then hook up Paige, and then they got zoomed up.
That was scary.
That was terrifying.
That was... But still, I believe it was like a double strap and double carabiner and the whole 9 yards.
I'm sure there was double straps on both of them. I'm sure they did it right. Okay, let's talk about the best match in the history of the world.
They've had better ones, but this was pretty good.
This is the best match in the history of this episode of Nitro.
That's for sure.
The Steiners versus the Faces of Fear. So the Faces of Fear get in there, and they throw the Steiners all over the place. And the Steiners get in there, and they throw the Faces all over the place, and they throw them out of the ring, and they do their bulldog pose, where Rick gets down on all fours and barks, and Scott stands behind him and puts his hands on his shoulders, and this is the classic Steiners brothers pose. And then it's 1,000 times, and it's just a taunt to say, we have taken over the ring. Word of advice, do not taunt the Faces of Fear. Because they saw this, they thought this was bullshit, and they stormed into the ring and beat the fuck out of these guys. Oh, it was great. Meng did a standing dropkick. Rick tried a sunset flip, and Meng avoided it by performing a kata. He hit Rick with a double headbutt. Barbarian misses the diving headbutt, and the best part of this is on the apron, Meng is so disappointed.
I was hoping this would be mentioned. I have never seen such emotion out of Meng.
No.
He arched his back, and he grabbed his head with both hands, and then he threw them forward.
Oh, no, it's so hard.
I cannot believe the ball bearing missed that fucking headbutt.
No, I'm going to have to fight more.
Let me tell you my favorite part of this match. So
I bet I know, but go ahead.
The fucking Barbarian gets crotched on the top rope, which is hilarious, by the way. You've never seen a lamer crotch on the top rope, but it doesn't matter. They're just tough guys. Balls are so big he has to do it poorly to not hurt himself. So Scott Steiner crawls
I know
up,
the feeling.
crawls up to the middle rope. And so the Barbarian is outside the ring standing on the middle rope. Scott Steiner is inside the ring standing on the middle rope. And Scott grabs the guy for the belly-to-belly. Now, did the Barbarian step onto the top rope so that he could jump and do a flip and assist Scott Steiner?
That is not correct.
No. And it's not even like he didn't have time. He just didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And Scott Steiner didn't give a shit. And so Barbarian just stood there, and Scott Steiner grabbed him, and he threw him with a belly-to-belly and dropped him right on his head and shoulders. And Barbarian didn't care.
No.
He just took the move.
Oh, yeah.
That was so amazing.
My favorite part of the match was the very first thing that happened. Scott Steiner turned around, and Barbarian hit him with a belly-to-belly. They didn't exchange blows. There was no stare down.
No.
The very first thing that happened in this match is Barbarian hit Scott Steiner with a belly-to-belly.
So neither of those is my favorite part.
I gotta say one more thing. I don't endorse this, but I do laugh every time. I see it with Scott Steiner. We saw it with Captain Redneck on the NWA show. Dick Murdoch a couple of weeks ago. When a guy is gonna do a suplex, and he's just gonna do it, and you either go up or you don't. But one way or the other, he's going to fucking throw you. That's what Scott Steiner does. Scott Steiner was going for that middle rope belly-to-belly, and the Barbarian really should have put his foot on the top rope and jumped. But when he didn't, Scott Steiner didn't care. He didn't say, hey, Uli Uli, or whatever the fucking Barbarian's real name is. I forget what it is. That's Meng's real name.
Sione, I believe.
Sione,
Yes.
yeah. He doesn't go, hey, Sione, step up onto the top rope, buddy. I'm going to throw you. No, he just fucking threw him. He didn't give a shit.
No.
The guy was being thrown. He either helped or he didn't.
Yeah.
And it was his fault.
Yes. So my favorite part is actually much simpler than all these. I believe it happened right after the belly-to-belly that Brian's talking about off the ropes there. But this match breaks down into a four-way, and they pair off. And Scott and the Barbarian are in one corner of the ring brawling. And in the other corner, Rick Steiner and Meng are having the best brawl ever. And they're just wailing on each other. Most UFC fights are not this intense. This is so awesome. And they're just punching each other. And it was great. So they all start hitting finishers, and Harlem Heat and Wrath and Mortis run in, and we got a crap double DQ finish to probably set up a meaningless four-way at the pay-per-view. But God, this action was awesome. This is exactly what I want from wrestling matches.
Yeah.
When people ask, what kind of wrestling do you like? Steiner Brothers versus Faces of Fear.
Yeah.
The carbon copy.
What people don't understand is no one could not like it.
Yeah.
It is impossible to not like giant dudes wailing on each
It's
other.
the best.
It's impossible. I don't care what style of wrestling you like.
Super Calo versus Scott Hall. First of all, Hall comes out and he notes that Calo's wearing sunglasses. Referee, he must remove those shades. And he indicated this several times until learning they were part of his mask. So yes, Brian's right. This was just barely not a squash. Hall took 90% of the match. The point of the match was to get Hall over. But he just wrestled. He just wrestled Calo. He was never embarrassed him. He gave him some stuff. He said, what can you do? And Calo says, well, you grab my arms from behind and I'll do a flipping kick off your chest. Hall says, all right, cool, we'll do that. And Calo says, all right, and then I'll run up the ropes and I'll jump backwards and do a reverse diving headbutt. And Hall says, okay, cool, I'll do that. They did those two spots. Then Calo went up top and Hall cut him off and he did his finish and won. But what a pro. What a total pro.
As stated, Scott Hall came out by himself, nobody else in the NWO with him. After the match, Big Bubba saunters down to ringside.
Let's discuss Ray Traylor.
Now, what I got out of this is last week, Bubba cut that awesome promo. Mm-hmm. He then goes down to the ring and gives Scott Hall a spinebuster.
Yes.
And then Vincent runs out. And he disposes of him too. And all of a sudden, I'm back behind Big Bubba Rogers. I'm like, this guy, Ray Traylor, he's got some steam.
We are simpatico, Craig.
He's got some steam.
We are of one mind.
I am going to support this man. He is a world beater.
And you know who else felt that way? Everyone in Green Bay.
They were going
place
nuts.
was going ballistic. for Ray Traylor.
And then Vince, what happened?
8 seconds later, Hogan distracts Traylor. Razor drops him with the Razor's Edge.
Traylor's on the middle rope yelling at Hogan, so he's in position for Hall to very easily get him up for the edge, because this is a big, heavy guy to try to hoist up there.
I should not gloss over that fact, yes. They strip his shirt off so we can all see he's fat, and they paint Ray with a question mark on his back and ask, Ray who? And that's how it ends.
And Hogan says he's the big lost man and goes, ha, ha, ha.
For a minute and 27 seconds,
Yes.
I was a Ray Traylor fan.
Get Sting out of Starrcade, put this man in the main event. That's for that moment in time. That's how huge this was. And they just turfed it.
That's their gimmick.
It is.
That's WCW's gimmick. To be dumb shits.
Speaking of dumb shits.
Yes, sir.
I use that term not to reference Dean Malenko and Psychosis. They had a match next. And I use that not to reference Mark Curtis, who's the referee. I use dumb shits to reference the fan who thought it'd be a good idea to run into this match.
So apparently this guy was either getting married or engaged. And he thought, I must get on national television.
Why do you know the backstory?
For my girl.
He did write a book.
That's true. I'm always wondering, what is in these people's heads when they hit the ring?
I just told you. He was either getting married or he was getting engaged, and he thought, I must get on national television.
You know what I would actually legit pay for? I know everyone's excited about the last Battle of Atlanta and all the other great stuff on the network.
A compilation of numbskulls hitting the ring.
A compilation of fans hitting the ring and getting their asses beat. Because it doesn't happen anymore for various reasons. Wrestling has changed. Society has changed. The legal system has changed. But it used to be if you hit the ring, it was your funeral, and it's our job to get you there. This fan hits the ring. And this is not a small guy. Probably the biggest dude in the ring, in fact. And he steps to the ropes, and Curtis sees him coming, and as he's stepping through the ropes, Mark Curtis hits a knee lift right to the head. Drills him. Just
all 110 pounds.
Drills this guy.
Mark Curtis.
And then he takes him down in a guillotine and holds him down until security gets there. My favorite part of this show that didn't involve the Steiners and the Faces of Fear.
You know what's funny is, back in the carnival days, when the wrestlers take on all comers, usually there's a bunch of drunk numbskulls at the fair. And so the drunk dipshit gets in the ring and you just school the guy.
Sure.
But every now and then you'd see the guy who wasn't drunk, and he looked like he was built like an amateur. And so, the moment he was stepping through the ropes, you kicked that fucker right in the face.
Yeah.
Exactly as Mark Curtis did here. And then he grabbed him and put him in a guillotine and held him down till security dragged him away. And then, Mark Curtis has just been in a real fight with a fucking fan that hit the ring.
Much bigger than him.
He stands up and he calls the action.
Oh, yeah. You got a job to do.
Out sweating, not breathing hard, not even looking over to see whatever happened to the guy. This man hit the ring, he done did his job, and he kept doing his other job. What a great man.
So in the middle here, the match just continued for a long time, in fact. And the announcers, out of nowhere, suddenly say, you know, fans, we know the top of the hour is coming up, but we're going to go way longer.
And they did.
I didn't write down what they said, but they said, we know we're going to go way past 2 hours tonight. No reason, no planning involved.
We're going to give you your no money's worth as a free television viewer.
Psychosis hits a tope, and Tony Schiavone says, you know, the more I see of those suicide dives, the more I wonder, what does that accomplish?
Well, you know...
Burying the entire division.
You know, Larry... I didn't mind when Tony said it, because they did do a suicide dive, and they both crashed and burned and were down dead. So he kind of did have a point. Like, what was the point of this? You're both dead. This was kind of stupid.
So...
Not like Larry who buries them in their art.
So the fans gave zero shits about this match. Another fight broke out in the crowd.
Yeah.
Psychosis finally hits a Tijuana jam for a near fall, and Sonny Ono gets taken out, and Malenko hooks the cloverleaf for the win. Out come Jeff Jarrett alongside Deborah. Jarrett says, it's time to bring some excitement out here. These fans are not impressed by you putting 1,001 holds on some cruiserweight. And he had a point. They weren't. He wanted a match against Malenko right now. So Dean charges, and Jarrett says, no, I want a contract first. Jarrett flees to the back. Deborah tries to step in Malenko's way and says, stop right there, you little troll. He blows her off. He goes to the back. So Deborah turns to the camera. Deborah cuts a promo saying, Jarrett deserves to be U.S. champion. Malengo is about as popular as pigeon dropping, she said. She finishes and she looks on the camera and says, "There!" And she turns and she leaves.
It wasn't even over the house mic, and she got so much heat for just talking.
Well,
now, at this point, they did not go to break. They do not have the announcers chat for a minute. Suddenly, we're in the ring with Gene Okerlund. We have gone in one segment from fan running into the ring to a wrestling match that no one cares about, to a finish, to a challenge, to a promo, to Gene doing an interview. He says there is a new acting chairman in WCW. I don't know who it is, which I completely believe, by the way. And out comes Roddy Piper. And Piper, he had 3 points. He made his points and he was done. I've seen a lot of Roddy Piper WCW promos where he just goes off and who the hell knows where he's been.
he was very regimented this time.
Yes.
He knew exactly what he needed to say. He didn't get distracted.
No.
There were a couple of points where he was trying to be funny and no one was laughing.
He made a joke or two at the beginning.
and he waited.
Yeah.
And then just kept going.
Yeah. But he said, look, number one, it's clear to me that Sting wants a match with Hulk Hogan. And every time Hogan comes out here, he says he wants Sting. So if they want each other so bad, I am going to make sure we get a match between those two booked by the end of the year. Number two, last year at Halloween Havoc, I had a contract against Hulk Hogan. That contract went unfilled. Well, now I'm in charge. So I'm booking myself in a rematch against Hulk Hogan in a steel cage at Halloween Havoc for this year. Number three.
You know, what's funny is he mentioned that he'd earned it, and the numbskulls backstage had forgotten about it.
Basically, yeah.
Well,
And I believed 1,000% that Piper remembered he'd earned it, and that those numbskulls backstage forgot about
I'm
it.
sure that's true.
And he made sure that we were reminded.
Yeah. Number three, for War Games, he is taking Luger and Page out of the match. It's clear their heads are not on square. We're just going to do it very simple. It's going to be the Four Horsemen against the NWO. And he was done.
finally, on the Go Home show, we got a main event for War Games.
Was this the Go Home show?
Yeah.
Well, until the Horseman skid occurred, and I guess everyone's feelings were not so hurt this week, I don't think that was going to be the main event. They changed it. I don't know what the main event was going to be.
Luger, Flair, Page, and some random fourth guy against four random NWO dudes.
Yeah.
So we get Conan and Buff Bagwell versus Ric Flair and Kurt Hennig.
Oh my God, I got to talk about this. This had to be the worst Ric Flair match of the last year. Flair was bad. Bagwell was bad. They were bad together. Kurt Hennig was by far the best guy in the match, and he barely did anything. And then the match just totally fell apart at the end.
It started off bad and then fell apart. That is true.
Wow.
There was a point here where all four dudes and the ref were all standing around looking at each other because someone was out of position, clearly, and no one was quite sure who. Now, okay, the wrestling was not very good, but the Hennig storytelling continues to be excellent because the NWO comes out, Flair and Hennig run out there, and they work together, and they whip ass, and they clear the ring. And Bagwell bails, and he looks up at Hennig and screams, "What are you doing?" They calm down, they start the match proper. Bagwell demands Hennig leaves, and Flair starts, and he gets his wish. So they're working over Flair for a long time. Eventually, Hennig comes in, and Hennig works a normal match. He's attacking them. They cut him off for a while. They're working him over. It goes on a long time. It's not good. And finally, Hennig pins Bagwell with a fisherman suplex. Now let's go back here. Hennig, for many weeks, said he was not going to be a part of the Four Horsemen. He wanted to be a free agent. And 2 weeks ago, they had a segment with Arn where Arn retired. Hennig could no longer turn down this honor. They do the NWO skit last week. Then Hennig comes out here on this very show, and his exact words were, "The Four Horsemen have hired me to be the enforcer." Then he comes out here. Bagwell is stunned and surprised and confused that Hennig is attacking them and being violent. Then the match goes on, and eventually Hennig wins and he leaves. So what's going on here? And I may be putting more into this than they planned, and by the end of this, maybe it won't turn out to be as great as it seems. But the storyline seems to be, while the Horsemen have hired Hennig, he has also been talking to the NWO, hinting he might join their side if they can make him a better offer, but they haven't done it yet. So for right now, he's still a Horseman. We'll see if it turns out to be that way. DDP versus Lex Luger. Remember 1 month ago when Lex was the hottest star in all of wrestling? Within about 90 seconds, fans are chanting boring here, loudly.
Because it was fucking boring.
It was also
Which is funny because
a 3-hour show.
I like the storyline, and I like how the whole thing ended, but nobody cared about the match.
No. So Page throws Luger out of the ring, but then he himself immediately goes down selling. The NWO comes out, they're beating Luger up. Page never saw this. He sees the NWO ringside, he is suspicious, but he has a job to do, so the match continues. Lex fires up, makes a comeback, but...
Yeah, what a comeback.
Well.
These running clotheslines, which are hideous, and then he's thrown outside and he just goes flying.
He throws himself outside.
Yeah.
He went to throw another terrible clothesline, and Page ducked.
And then DDP does a pescado, and all of the NWOs around ringside. Now, how many fucking times have we talked about how someone has to hit you for it to be a DQ? Mm-hmm. If you hit them, it's not a DQ. How many times have we said that? No matter how stupid it is, everybody goes, well, Brian, if you hit the guy who's interfering, it's not a DQ. But if he hits you, it's a DQ. Well, here we go, the example. DDP just starts hitting the NWO for the DQ. He hit them, not vice versa.
So a brawl breaks out. Giant comes out to even the odds in favor of Page and Luger. And he hits the ring. I think he slammed somebody first, but he goes to chokeslam Vincent.
Yeah.
Who is not, by pro wrestling standards, a particularly big guy, especially in the 1990s. And he's in there with the Giant. And I think this happened once before. Vincent deadweights him. Mm-hmm. Giant could barely get this guy up to his own head level.
Because he sucks.
Because he sucks. He sucks so bad. So he hits this sort of chokeslam thing. NWO bails. Giant disappears. Then we have like 2 minutes left to kill. So Page and Luger stand side by side and they dare the NWO to fight. Hall and Savage get some silver cheese heads from the fans and wear them to the back. And Page and Luger, and this is actually, they could not have scripted a better finish to this little mini storyline. They agree they have a common enemy, and they go to high five, and they totally fuck it up. You've never seen two men screw up a high five so bad. And that's the end of the show.
All right, a few things. Number one, going back a match, that awesome Ric Flair promo where he was so fired up and motivated. God, he had a bad match. Then, as we talked about, this show went well past the top of the hour. For this. This is why the show had to go 15 minutes long. This fucking match that everyone chanted boring for. You are underselling these cheese heads. We got a match here, and they're setting up this War Games or whatever, and you've got Luger and Page in the ring. Page is taking this 100% deadly serious. Luger's kind of just there, because he doesn't give a shit anymore after what happened a month ago.
Yeah.
And Hall and Savage just put these pieces of cheese on their head, and they walk to the back like they couldn't possibly give a shit.
No.
What a disaster. They should have ended at the top of the hour. They should have gone off the air with this match starting and said, you got to tune in Sunday to find out what happened.
There's way, way, way too much NWO on this show. And I know it's just getting started.
I cared a hell of a lot less about Fall Brawl after this show went off the air than I did going in. And I didn't care one bit going in. That's the shows, everybody.
Those are the shows we watched.
Anyway, check out my Twitter at Brian Alvarez. Granny's info on the memoirs. Please buy them so I don't get a guilt trip. She wanted me to let everyone know she's not using the proceeds to make a deck. She's not trying to make any money off this.
It's her money. She can do what she wants with it.
No. Apparently there's very little profit margin here, so she doesn't want people thinking she's trying to buy a deck here. But check it out on Twitter at Brian Alvarez. She'll be on Thursday to talk more about it. And I'll be back tomorrow, Observer Live. We got some big guests coming up. Got to massacre this edition of Wrestling Observer Live.
Wow. Strong words.
Check it out.
May I make an announcement?
An announcement?
I have an announcement. There's actually, as far as I know, first either of you heard of this. For those of you who missed the Vinny V Sports Report.
Oh, I thought
dear
your
God.
wife was pregnant or something.
No.
Okay.
No, it's good news. No. Starting actually this afternoon, the first show's already up. I have joined the Locked On Podcast Network for Locked On Seahawks, put out by
Nice.
David Locke. We're doing 15 to 20 minute daily podcast, just a short little burst to get you through your drive home.
Daily?
Yeah.
Wow.
Daily shows. We'll be discussing the Seattle Seahawks and all the NFL action. Please check that out. That's Locked On Seahawks at audioboom.com.
Locked On Seahawks at audioboom.com.
That is correct.
Man, I can't wait to listen to this.
First show's up. You can let's do it right now.
Do you take calls?
I never will.
Damn it!
Remember that one time I called in?
No.
Remember you guys were doing the Vinny V Sports?
It was
Report?
him!
Were you the relay call?
No.
Oh, damn
I
it.
called in with a really bad English accent and asked you about
Cricket?
football,
Let's see.
but it was soccer,
Uh-huh.
and you were...
Yeah, I'm never taking calls, people.
Yeah.
Man. What about a mailbag?
That's possible.
I'll have to get my question on the air. All right, everybody, check it out. And that is it from here. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Bye.